Hello and welcome to the Global News. I'm your anchor and here are the top stories for today. The United States has sanctioned a shadow fleet used to transport Iranian oil, citing the deaths of protesters in Iran. The Treasury Department targeted 15 tankers and their owners for violating sanctions. The vessels were moving oil worth billions of dollars to China and other countries. The sanctions come as Iran reports over 3,000 protest deaths. The U.S. says the oil revenue funds the crackdown on demonstrators. The shadow fleet uses fake registrations and deceptive shipping practices. The sanctions block access to U.S. financial systems. European allies are considering similar measures. The move is part of Trump's maximum pressure campaign on Iran. China, which is the main buyer, has not responded. The sanctions will reduce Iran's oil revenue by an estimated 30%. Human rights groups welcomed the action. China has demonstrated a single soldier controlling a swarm of 200 drones using artificial intelligence. The military showcased the technology at a defense expo in Beijing. The soldier used a handheld device and voice commands to direct the swarm. The drones performed coordinated attacks and reconnaissance missions autonomously. Military experts say this represents a major leap in swarm warfare capabilities. The system uses AI to process battlefield data in real time. The U.S. Pentagon is concerned about the strategic implications. The technology could overwhelm enemy defenses through sheer numbers. China claims it has deployed the system along its borders. The demonstration included drones of various sizes and functions. The U.S. is rushing to develop similar capabilities. The technology raises questions about autonomous weapons ethics. Spain will not join Trump's Board of Peace, according to Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez. The Spanish leader rejected the U.S. president's invitation, calling it a political manipulation of the Gaza conflict. Sanchez said Spain supports a genuine peace process through the United Nations. The decision comes after France also declined to participate. Trump had offered to drop tariffs on European wine if France joined. Spain's foreign minister said the board lacks legitimacy. The EU is united in its opposition to Trump's Gaza plan. Spain has recognized Palestinian statehood and supports two-state solution. The refusal is a setback for Trump's Middle East diplomacy. The U.S. State Department expressed disappointment. Spain will continue humanitarian aid to Gaza. The move strengthens European unity against U.S. pressure. A Los Angeles County charity director has stolen millions of dollars to fund a lavish lifestyle, according to federal prosecutors. The director embezzled $12 million from a non-profit that helps homeless families. The money was spent on luxury cars, private jets, and designer clothes. The FBI arrested the director after a 2-year investigation. The charity received government grants and donations from celebrities. Prosecutors say the director created fake invoices and ghost employees. The fraud went undetected for 5 years. The charity has been shut down, leaving hundreds of families without support. The director faces up to 20 years in prison. The case highlights weak oversight of non-profits in California. The government is demanding full restitution. Other charities are reviewing their financial controls. The Pentagon says South Korea will take the lead in North Korea deterrence as the U.S. shifts its military focus. The announcement came after defense talks in Seoul. The U.S. will provide support, but South Korean forces will command operations. The move reflects Trump's desire to reduce U.S. troop presence in Asia. South Korea has increased its defense budget to $50 billion annually. The South Korean military has developed advanced missile systems. The change worries some experts about U.S. commitment to the alliance. North Korea has condemned the move as a U.S. retreat. The Pentagon says the U.S. nuclear umbrella remains in place. The transition will happen over the next 2 years. Japan is concerned about the strategic implications. The move could embolden North Korea's aggression. California is suing the Trump administration over plans to restart oil pipelines along the state's coast. The lawsuit filed in federal court challenges the environmental approval process. Governor Newsom says the pipelines threaten marine ecosystems and public beaches. The pipelines were shut down in 2015 after a major spill. Trump ordered their restart, claiming energy security needs. The suit argues the administration bypassed required environmental reviews. California Attorney General says the move violates the Clean Water Act. Environmental groups are joining the lawsuit. The pipelines would transport 300,000 barrels daily. Coastal communities strongly oppose the project. The case could reach the Supreme Court. The administration vows to fight the lawsuit. The outcome will affect U.S. energy policy. 5 universities are collaborating to address Michigan's severe teacher shortage through a new partnership program. The initiative will fast-track teacher certification and provide scholarships to 500 students. The program targets STEM and special education teachers where shortages are worst. Universities of Michigan, Michigan State, Wayne State, Western Michigan and Central Michigan are participating. The state is facing a shortage of 3,000 teachers this year. The program includes 1-year accelerated certification for career changers. Governor Whitmer allocated $50 million in funding. School districts are desperate for qualified teachers. The program also offers loan forgiveness for graduates who teach in high-need areas. The partnership is the first of its kind in the Midwest. Officials hope it will become a national model. France is investigating a link between 2 baby deaths and contaminated milk formula. The infants died from severe infections after consuming formula from the same brand. The National Health Agency has recalled the product nationwide. The formula was produced in a factory with sanitation violations. Parents are being warned to stop using the brand immediately. The manufacturer denies any connection to the deaths. The investigation includes testing of over 10,000 formula batches. The health minister says this is a matter of utmost urgency. Similar cases have been reported in Belgium and Switzerland. The formula was popular among French parents. The company faces criminal charges if negligence is proven. The case has sparked panic among parents. Supermarkets have cleared shelves of the product. Mali's government has imposed fuel rationing after al-Qaeda-linked attacks cut off supply routes to the capital Bamako. The jihadist attacks targeted fuel convoys from neighboring countries. Gas stations are limited to 20 liters per vehicle. The government says reserves will last only 2 weeks. The al-Qaeda affiliate Jamaat Nusrat al-Islam wal Muslimin claimed responsibility. The group controls major highways in northern Mali. The fuel crisis has paralyzed transportation and raised food prices. The UN peacekeeping mission is escorting remaining fuel convoys. The government has declared a state of emergency. Citizens are protesting the shortages. The crisis highlights the government's inability to secure the country. ECOWAS is considering intervention. The fuel shortage could trigger a humanitarian crisis. Milan Cortina organizers are struggling to organize Winter Olympic Games as temperatures reach 36 degrees Celsius in the Italian Alps. Climate change has made natural snow increasingly scarce. Organizers are relying entirely on artificial snow for the 2026 Games. The International Olympic Committee is concerned about the viability of winter sports. Alpine venues have lost 70% of their snow cover in the past decade. The organizing committee has budgeted $100 million for snowmaking equipment. Athletes are worried about safety on artificial surfaces. Environmental groups protest the environmental impact of snow production. The Games are scheduled for February 2026. This could be the warmest Winter Olympics in history. Organizers may need to reschedule events to higher altitudes. The situation highlights climate change's impact on global sports. Spanish prosecutors have dropped a sexual assault complaint against singer Julio Iglesias citing lack of evidence. The complaint was filed by a woman who alleged the incident occurred in 2017. Prosecutors said there were no witnesses and insufficient physical evidence to proceed. Iglesias denied the allegations, calling them false and extortionate. The case had generated significant media attention in Spain. The woman's lawyer says they will appeal the decision. This is the third such complaint against Iglesias to be dismissed in recent years. The singer's legal team is considering a countersuit for defamation. The decision comes as Spain tightens its sexual assault laws. Women's rights groups have criticized the dismissal. The case highlights challenges in prosecuting historical sexual assault claims. An avalanche in Pakistan and snowstorms in neighboring Afghanistan have killed at least 20 people. The avalanche struck a village in Pakistan's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, burying homes under snow. In Afghanistan, heavy snow blocked mountain passes, leaving travelers stranded. The dead include women and children. Rescue operations are hampered by continuing severe weather. Over 100 people are missing in remote areas. The UN is airlifting emergency supplies to affected regions. This is the worst winter weather in the region in a decade. Climate change is increasing the frequency of extreme winter events. The Pakistani military is using helicopters to reach isolated villages. Afghanistan's Taliban government lacks resources for major rescue operations. International aid agencies are requesting emergency funding. Colombian President Gustavo Petro is optimistic about his high-stakes White House meeting with President Trump next week. Petro hopes to secure continued U.S. aid and discuss joint anti-drug operations. Relations have been strained over Colombia's criticism of U.S. Venezuela policy. Trump previously threatened sanctions on Colombia over its approach to Venezuela. Petro is bringing a delegation of business leaders to discuss trade deals. The meeting could determine future U.S.-Colombia cooperation. Petro's leftist policies have concerned U.S. conservatives. However, both leaders share concerns about Chinese influence in Latin America. The White House says the meeting will focus on security and economic partnership. Colombian exporters are hoping to avoid tariffs. The outcome will shape regional diplomacy for years. A Chilean court has extended detention of the suspect accused of starting wildfires that killed 20 people in Valparaiso. The judge ordered the suspect held for another 3 months pending investigation. The man is accused of arson in multiple locations. Prosecutors presented forensic evidence linking him to the fire origins. The suspect maintains his innocence, claiming he was framed by political enemies. The fires were Chile's deadliest in modern history. Over 1,000 homes were destroyed in the inferno. The extended detention allows more time for witness testimony. The case has drawn national attention. Victims' families demand justice. The government has declared a state of emergency in fire-prone areas. The trial is expected to begin in March. A long-serving Nvidia director has resigned after a decade on the board, leaving with $26 million in stock holdings. The director cited personal reasons for the departure, but the timing raises questions. The resignation comes as Nvidia faces increased scrutiny over AI chip exports to China. The director was involved in export compliance decisions. Shareholders had questioned potential conflicts of interest. The director's stock holdings were disclosed in SEC filings. Nvidia says the departure is unrelated to any investigation. The company is searching for a replacement with government experience. The director's exit follows similar departures from other tech boards. The move could signal upcoming regulatory changes. Nvidia's stock price dipped on the news. The company maintains its export practices are legal. The UK's Royal Navy is tracking Russian vessels sailing through the English Channel in an unusually large naval deployment. 2 Russian warships and a submarine were detected off the coast of Dover. The Navy shadowed the vessels for 3 days as they transited through international waters. The Russian ships were heading to the Mediterranean for exercises. The Ministry of Defense called it a demonstration of UK maritime security capabilities. The deployment comes as NATO increases patrols in response to Russian aggression. The vessels were monitored by HMS Kent and a Wildcat helicopter. Russia has increased its naval presence around Europe since the Ukraine invasion. The Channel is a strategic choke point for Russian ships. The UK says it will continue to intercept and monitor all Russian military traffic. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says U.S.-China tensions have eased as multiple Trump-Xi meetings are being planned for 2026. The first summit could happen as early as March in Switzerland. The meetings will focus on trade imbalances and Taiwan. China has agreed to resume military communications that were suspended last year. The U.S. has lifted some technology export restrictions. The Treasury Secretary said progress is being made on a new trade framework. China has pledged to increase U.S. agricultural purchases by $50 billion. The two sides are also discussing climate cooperation. The meetings follow months of diplomatic negotiations. Business leaders are optimistic about improved relations. However, deep disagreements on human rights and technology remain. The summits could reshape global economic dynamics. Colombia has halted electricity sales to Ecuador and imposed tariffs in a trade dispute over drug trafficking allegations. The move cuts off 70 megawatts of power that Ecuador depends on. Colombia's president accused Ecuador of not doing enough to stop cocaine trafficking. Ecuador's president called the move economic blackmail. The trade dispute has escalated tensions between the neighboring countries. Colombia is Ecuador's largest trading partner. The electricity cutoff affects hospitals and schools in Ecuador. The UN is mediating the dispute. Colombia is demanding Ecuador extradite suspected traffickers. Ecuador has imposed retaliatory tariffs on Colombian goods. The dispute threatens regional stability. Both countries are members of the Andean community. The US is urging both sides to negotiate. Uganda's defense chief, who is also President Museveni's son, has barred opposition leader Bobi Wine from future elections. General Muhoozi Kainerugaba announced that Wine will never be allowed to run for office again. The statement came after Wine's party won several parliamentary seats in recent by-elections. The general controls the military and security services. Bobi Wine called the move a declaration of military dictatorship. The U.S. State Department expressed concern about democratic backsliding. Uganda's constitution guarantees the right to run for office. Museveni has ruled Uganda for 40 years. The opposition says the military is now openly interfering in politics. International observers are calling for free elections. The move could trigger protests and violence. Wine says he will challenge the ban in court. Severe floods in Mozambique have pushed crocodiles into towns, raising health and safety concerns. The rising waters have displaced the reptiles from their natural habitats. Residents report crocodiles in streets, schools, and markets. The floods have killed 15 people and displaced 50,000. Health officials warn of increased risk of crocodile attacks and waterborne diseases. The government has issued warnings for people to stay indoors. Rescue teams are evacuating affected areas. The floods were caused by heavy rains from Cyclone Cheeto. Southern Mozambique is experiencing its worst flooding in 20 years. Wildlife officials are trying to capture the crocodiles. The situation is complicating relief efforts. International aid agencies are providing emergency supplies. The crocodile threat adds to the humanitarian crisis. That concludes our global news for today.